How's it going today? I hope really well. And thank you, by the way, Professor. I really appreciate that introduction, and especially working in that part about me and Ike. Not very often I get to compare myself to a former president. But so what I'd like to do today, you guys, is I'm just going to kind of give you a high-level overview of not just Indiegogo, but how to break into markets using crowdfunding as well. So if I may here, let's see if I can share my screen. Do I need admin rights to do that? By the way, can you guys see my screen? No? Okay, cool. So let's see if I can. Let's see. There it is. All right, sorry. I usually use Google Meet, so forgive any perceived ineptitude here. Okay. Is that better? Can everyone see my screen? Yeah, cool. So let me do this. 1 second, guys. Get this going. Time. Present. And then. Okay. All right. So I thought we'd all start. And by the way, I'm going to go through everything. And since I can't see anyone, or obviously we're not in the same room, we're all coming together via this void. So I can't see anyone raise their hands. So if you could just save any kind of questions until the end, and I'll open it up for everyone. So, and just to begin, I'll give you a little bit of background information about Indiegogo. So who are we? What are we doing? So as you all may know, Indiegogo is one of the world's largest crowdfunding platforms. We work with startups and existing brands to launch new products and brands, and it says international marketplace, but also the domestic marketplace as well. So we have 18 million monthly active users. We've raised over 2 billion in funds. We're in 237 countries and territories, and we've almost hosted 1 million campaigns launched on the platform. So with that said, who's our audience? And that would be the overwhelming majority of our audience. It's really made up by early adopters and early majority individuals. And so what do they really care about? These categories of individuals? Well, early adopters, they just want it, right? So price isn't an issue for them. And then the early majority, price is an important factor for them. They want it. They're trying to get ahead of the crowd, but they don't know if they want to put down, say iPhone 12 money for it just yet. And then the other part of our audience is comprised of, the late majority and laggards. So now, what sets Indiegogo apart from our competitor, Kickstarter? And it says 111, but there are 4 key differentiators there. First off, Indiegogo, we do a lot of hardware, tech, and design. And when I say we do a lot, I mean that's our primary focus. So in the time that I've been there, we've really doubled down in this sector. So much so now that 80% of all of our funds on our platform go to that segment, whereas on Kickstarter, it's about 40% or about 40%. And what this really means is Indiegogo is where campaigners come to have big launches. So in the last year, we've had more $1 million campaigns, more $100,000 campaigns in Kickstarter. By going with Indiegogo, you get guaranteed promotional support. We have features to assist in the amount you raise. So like add-on features, you'll have, you guys are taking a marketing class here. So you'd be happy to know that we have Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel embedded in our platform. And also there's unparalleled service between the platforms. So by launching on Indiegogo, you're almost guaranteed to be, well, all of you guys, I'm going to supply my my email address at the end of this, so you all will have it. And should anything arise, if you're thinking about launching a campaign, just have questions, or just want to ask any kind of question, let me know. It's super easy. It's Stacy, STACY, at Indiegogo.com. And again, I'll post that here in a little bit. So now, let's talk about crowdfunding practices, right? So crowdfunding is now the default go-to market strategy for not just hardware companies, but most companies in general. And a lot of the reason for that is especially because customers are paid for your manufacturing. But there's also a couple more key reasons. Okay, so companies also, why might they want to launch on Indiegogo and do a crowdfunding campaign? And it's because you can get your audience to validate your products. You can secure distribution. You can also, it allows you to grow quickly. And then you can also attract capital and partners as well. So it's definitely still challenging. And it's definitely still challenging. So even with the best laid plans, you're going to face, well, obviously challenges, and especially when entering new markets, right? So what is the best strategy to deploy to mitigate the challenge, mitigate the risk, and just overall have a great crowdfunding campaign? And that is, you're going to need great strategy to do it. So a lot of people think that crowdfunding, just because you'll see crowdfunding campaigns written up on, like, say, Gizmodo, the Verve, etc. So you'll see these campaigns, and a lot of people just think that there's virality to it, and there is, but you shouldn't rely on that at all. That's almost a fool's endeavor. So a lot of people think that if you build it, your audience will come, and that absolutely is not the case. So what is crowdfunding? It's marketing. And so how do you do it? And it's really a 5-step process, as you can see here. So you're going to make a plan. You're going to secure the right talent. You're going to look into product positioning. And then the 4 steps, build your materials. And then the 5th and final step is to drive as much traffic as you possibly can to your campaign page. So let's start with the plan. So step number 1. So how long does a crowdfunding campaign take? I get campaigners all the time that reach out to me on like a Monday and they say, hey, we're ready to launch on Friday. Probably not the best idea. So how long does it really take? By the time you decide to crowdfund and then to you actually shipping your product, overall, it can take anywhere from 4 to 12 months. But so the pre-launch phase is the absolute most important time to your campaign. And ideally, that's about 3 months. And when I say that it's the most important time to your campaign, because this is when you're going to be building a community, and you're going to want to be testing that community as much as you possibly can, because you want to know everything about your audience, right? So this way you can use not only that information to gain the relationship that you're going to need to succeed, but also the ability, you need that information to sell back into them too. So whenever you launch and between your crowdfunding ends, that is 60 days. And then from when your campaign ends to when you ship your product, ideally it's anywhere from 1 to 6 months. If it takes longer than that, I highly recommend being as open and as transparent with your audience as you possibly can be. And ultimately, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, too, because they understand that stuff happens. We're all connecting via the internet right now because of COVID. Obviously, things happen. And as long as you're transparent with them, they'll be more than happy to wait a little bit further. So now, you want to scale your timeline and your budget based on your goals. And that's why I just went through the timeline with you guys, because you're going to need at least 1 to 3 months of preparation for that timeline to kind of get there. And then what kind of budget does it take? You know, you're going to need 20% of whatever you're looking to raise. So if you're looking to raise, you know, 20K, then you're going to need, or even 100, let's just say 100K because that's easier. So 100K, you would need 20% for reserved for ads. Ideally, you know, working with a rep like myself, I can help you get that number down as much as possible by getting you guaranteed promotions like newsletters, things in that newsletter placements, things of that nature on the platform. So the next question is, what do you need to launch with? And well, you're going to need to launch with a prototype. You're going to need an engaged and excited audience. And you're also going to want to make for sure that you have all of your manufacturing secured. So now with that said, let's move on to the second part of the process. And that would be, you guys would want to make for sure of what you're going to need to handle in-house. And then, so this is everything that needs to be handled. So you're going to need to handle copywriting. There's going to need to be some kind of graphic design, a landing page, your product photography, organic social media. So all of these tasks right here. So you'd probably want to divide them up amongst your friends. And this way, what you can handle yourself, and then what you can handle, what you know others can handle as well. I know it says partners. So whoever, generally campaigns outsource video creation, press outreach, things of that nature, but whatever you can. So now factors to consider, you're definitely going to want to consider compensating your friends or third-party partners like agencies, should you choose to go with one, how much time you're going to need, and then the expertise of those tasks that you've assigned to your friends or agencies. So now let's drill into those factors and just a little bit. So basically, here are the ranges for your cost partnership. So anyway, if you were going to go to agencies, they can run you a lot of money, but ideally we're looking to do this with an agency. But if you guys are doing it with, you know, friends and family, that's even better. So now product positioning. This is what's most important, especially for your launch, because right here we have a great picture of this door, right? But it's not very exciting. These shoes, again, pretty good picture, but doesn't really capture the imagination. Right here, though, this picture it captures the imagination. What is this person, where have they been? Where are they going? Why are they so sincerely staring out at that sunset? It tells a story, right? So ultimately, you guys are going to be wanting to position your products to sell that, and then, but you're not going to want to sell that door, for instance, and you're definitely not going to want to sell the shoes. So a great campaign that did this, excuse me, I got a little bit ahead of myself. So you want to have clear product marketing basics. Just go ahead and get these out of the way for you. So what amazing experience does your product enable? What problems are you guys solving? Who's your target customer? And why you instead of the competition, right? And a great example of these principles in practice is Flick, the perfect button. So they launched on Indiegogo, and they raised almost $1 million. And a lot of that is just from the clear marketing principles that they had in place. So what did they do well? Let's check out this infographic right here. You can tell that they do an alarm, it's a selfie, it opens doors, and call you a cab. And then, so this photo shows you the problem that it solves, right? All right, so you can see that you have no need to look at your phone while texting and navigating. So very relatable problem for pretty much everyone, I would assume. And then, so now with that said, let's move on to part 4 of the process, and that would be creating content. So content can be divided into 4 parts. So let's start with the video. So how long should the video be, and what kinds? So the video, ideally campaigners, ideally backers spend about 3.5 minutes on your campaign page. This infographic right here says 2.5 minutes, but ideally, I personally, the more succinct you can present your idea and your product, the better. So I would really suggest having it closer to about 90 seconds. Which campaigns, what types of video? So you're going to need, a main campaign video. You're also going to need social media, user testimonials, unboxings, product demonstrations, a lot of lifestyle shots as well, as much content as you can get around that. So for product photography, again, I just mentioned lifestyle shots. You're going to want to make for sure that you get the product from multiple angles and components of demonstration, and you're going to want to make for sure you showcase the stage of development that your product's already in. Now, the third type of content that here is going to be your campaign page. So the structure. So the campaign title and tagline, that would be product introduction. You're going to want to make for sure you have your features. So the first 2 are considered above the fold. And then as you get all the way down, you can see it goes down to timeline to showcase, to set the expectation with your backers on when they're going to get get their products. And then, frequently asked questions. And for part 4, you want to have a great perk strategy. So a perk on Indiegogo is your product that you're trying to sell to your community. So perk pricing, generally you want to make sure that you offer them an early bird. This way to reward individuals for getting in early, because that early momentum, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be super important to your campaign. And then you want to make for sure that you ratchet up that pricing over time. And you also want to make for sure that you implement a perk strategy that incorporates scarcity and urgency. And the best way, because those 2 factors right there really motivate your backers to purchase. So even myself, so think of it as, the fear of missing out, FOMO. I use FOMO every day to sell on campaign pages. But whenever I'm on a different website, things of that nature, when I don't know that it's going on, it says there's 3 left. I don't know if that's true or not. And I personally succumb to it all the time. So just knowing that it's a sales tactic and still being manipulated by it, I mean, it's a very powerful tool. So right here, this is, we were talking about the campaign page. This right here is a campaign that I launched, that I launched earlier this year, and that would be the Baby Maker. And they launched back in March. And just to kind of give you an idea of how counterintuitive the platform and crowdfunding may be, these guys right here launched on March 13th. So for you guys, you might know March 13th, it was a day that we all went into lockdown here in San Francisco. And so I really consider that the height of the anxiety around COVID. They launched a $1.1 million launch day, and then they continued to raise $12 million right here. So what they did great, and the reason why I cite this is because they have a very clear top of the fold. So it's an easy to understand page, and they have it's a very easy to understand page. And as you can see here, as I move on to my next slide, I want to show you the body of the page. So now this would coincidentally Baby Maker's competitor, Mate X, but they did something really well. And you can see here they have a clear and concise summary of your product, and you want to make for sure that it's high up and in text. And ideally, you want to show off your hardware, or excuse me, your product as much as possible. And also validation matters. So if you guys can get, right here, I have GQ Wired, but whatever publications that you guys can get, but more importantly, user testimonials. So if you guys can get your friends and family to record videos to say what they liked about your product and kind of go to bat for it, that's going to be really powerful to help others that may be on the fence about your product, to really maybe push them over and get them to commit and back your product as well. So also, you're going to want to have right here. No, actually, I just kind of got out of ahead of myself. So you can see down at the bottom what customers are saying about them and things of that nature. So this is just a best practice to remind you all to keep your pitch on your campaign page in 2 sections. So now let's move on to the last part of my presentation here, and that would be traffic. So, which is ultimately so important. So you need to understand what works before your launch. And that's why I said that your community, the pre-launch phase is the absolute most important time to your campaign, because you really need to be testing as much as you possibly can about the individuals that are coming to your page, who's leaving you your email addresses, the demographics they're in, things of that nature. This way you can know everything about them, so you can relate to them as much as possible, and then ultimately use it back, that information to sell back into them. And the best way to understand all of this, I should point out, is by using deploying A/B testing on a pre-launch page. This is the best way to test for that information. Okay, now this slide, you really want to plan for your traffic. So how do you plan for the traffic? So pre-launch, you're going to have email collection on your landing page. You want to share great social content, and that's Facebook, Twitter, but really you need to be on Instagram, because that's where everyone is today, and just the leads that come out of there are way better. And you also want to engage family and friends. Now, after launch, post-launch, you want to make for sure that your traffic is coming from press articles, product reviews, blog posts, and social referral programs. So if you can get people out there as brand ambassadors on social media, that's even better as well. So you also, if you're going to get press samples, it's important to know that that you're going to need samples to send them. So, and I know some people have a tough time sending samples to media without them paying for it, which I've heard that on a couple of occasions. While I can understand it on its face, not the best practice at all. So if you're going to want companies to write about you, you need to give them free samples. And that sample, whatever it is, in terms of price, will really pay for itself many, many times over just from the earned media that you'll get. And now, this is the absolute must to campaigning, and that is using digital advertising. So you're going to make for sure that you're going to drive traffic to your campaign page, pre-launch page, with Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and to a lesser extent, Google. But keep in mind that it's kind of a balance that you're going to want to strike, because discounts drive contributions, but you can't pay for that traffic by having a small margin. So you really want to find the sweet spot between the margin and for your margin. This way you can pay for your ads, pay for your shipping, things of that nature. So now that brings us to my conclusion here. And just so you guys know, there's my email address, and I'm also going to put it in the chat for you guys. So I'm going to take myself stop sharing my screen here so I can see everyone. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, there we go. So now that I can see everybody, does anyone have any questions?
There were.
Yeah, I had a.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Who's that? Go ahead.
I have a question then.
Sure.
I'm wondering, you were talking about giving out samples, and with my invention, I wouldn't, the only thing I was thinking of that would be similar to that is donating. Well, first of all, let me tell you, I'm coming up with a different method of taking mammograms.
Okay.
And obviously I would not want to give out samples like I'm giving out, you know, Red Bull.
For sure.
Because it would be way too expensive. So
Yeah.
I had in mind about donating to like Doctors Without Borders. You know, I would donate some of my invention product and like maybe have somebody write a press release or something about that and have maybe the doctors review it and say how they find it helpful or something like that. That's
Sure.
the closest I can think of handing out samples of what you were talking about.
Yeah. So that is that's definitely a very useful product and one that you know, ultimately has a lot of medical applications. So now keep in mind the slides and everything that I presented are best practices, and it's not necessarily best for every type of product and every type of campaign. So for you guys, I think that what you're talking about in terms of maybe providing some kind of usage for Doctors Without Borders and then having a press release and then maybe turning in some of those doctors into a brand ambassador as well could be very beneficial to your campaign.
Nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Kaya?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question. So I know a lot of what the slides were showing was all prototyping and an actual product, a physical product. How is crowdfunding different when you're pitching an app to people instead of something like a brick and mortar or something that has to do with inventory, which is what you kind of went over in the slides?
Yeah, so that is definitely a harder challenge. So crowdfunding, there's actually a couple of better platforms out there specifically for apps. And the challenge around apps is in the startup, in the early days of crowdfunding, when everyone was really excited about, because they kind of coincided, the smartphone so apps coincided with crowdfunding around 2008. So a lot of people were excited about the convergence of both, and were in turn, a lot of people got burned with backing campaigns and then ultimately didn't deliver for apps. So the challenge therein is going to lie finding the right platform for you. But what is your app, by the way?
So currently right now, me and my little team, I guess you can say, sorry if you can hear like the noise in the back, but what we're doing right now is we're in the process of prototyping an app that basically connects people who need to do volunteer service, and then people who want volunteers, and this can include places like schools, right, after school programs, nonprofits, businesses, small businesses, companies, things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's kind of like an app interconnected too, through like CSL work, if you've ever heard of that.
Sure. So what would you be raising money for? Would it be the development, or are you looking to find, well, what would you be raising money for in that situation?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, you know, everyone's like, you should start crowdfunding and like blah, blah, blah. And my thing is, other than the development and the few services that you would need to, you know, build the app, what other, that's kind of like something we've come into play, but I just wanted to like ask the question and see where it goes. And then,
Sure.
so personally, I like beyond development, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, so it's going to be important. I would think that whenever you launch, to launch with some organizations that you know will be posting that can help back your app, because ultimately you're going to need them in order to get the subscribership. So it's going to be important that you show backers whenever you do launch, that you have some companies that can back you and want to work with you as well.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Melanie, you have plenty of questions, really good questions too. So.
Yeah, I kind of have the same question as her at first. For me, I'm building a wellness task management platform on application, right? So the money would go towards development. I'm trying to outsource development in either South America or Russia, and the other part of the money will go towards marketing for the application. I'm a product designer, so I can prototype everything on my end, but that's where the money would go towards. I was just wondering, like, what platforms do you recommend kind of working with for this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I honestly, the names of the two platforms that we recommend for apps escape me at the moment. But here in the chat, here, let me put this in here. So everyone, so putting my email address. So if you guys will email me and I will look into this, I'll put it in my Slack channel, and just email me and let me know, remind me, be more than happy to follow up on that.
Another question, Darzel?
Oh yeah, my question was mostly like, are you open to mentoring or coaching opportunities? And I guess this is for the class in general as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I did see that you left your email, so thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to, like, I know how hard it is out there, and especially for you guys, you know, I would be more than happy to help with whatever you guys need, any questions, things of that nature. So please, and I sincerely mean this, do reach out to me, and I can schedule some time with you guys and to take a look at whatever questions you have, what you're thinking about, and I'll offer as much guidance as possible.
Thank
I have
you.
another question. So you mentioned about A/B testing your pre-launch page. What do you mean by that? Could you kind of talk to us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So A/B launching is, like I said, it's going to be paramount to a better understanding of the audience that you're cultivating around your launch. So let's just say, for instance, a good example of this would be the call to action that I often recommend using for campaigners to come to a pre-launch page is, you know, leave your email address here to get X amount off on launch day. So X in this example would be, in an A/B example, would be either percentage off or actual price off. So right there, you can see between, you can get a lot of different, see what your audience is finding more engaging. Is it the percentage that is driving more people to leave their email address, or is it the dollar amount?
And Meryl Jean, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, so I'm doing the same thing as Rukai up there where she talked about the volunteering and connecting people with that. So when you're crowdfunding, how do you know how much to ask for? And is there any such thing as like asking for too much, or like is there a certain amount that we should shoot for?
Yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys, well, it depends. So if you're running a self-interest campaign, like a GoFundMe, you want to be forthright. But if you're running a campaign on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or wherever, then you want to make for sure that you take into account a couple of things, because you ultimately know how much you need to raise, and or at least I would hope you do. And because without that information, it's going to be hard to set any kind of metrics around success, but you want to make for sure that you know precisely how much you're looking to raise, and then you want to gamify the platform. So, and you want to really gamify it by really setting it too low. And I know it seems counterintuitive, but you want to set it too low for a couple of reasons. Because you want to make sure that the logarithm, that you're taking into account the logarithm that's going to be important for organic visibility. So on Indiegogo, our logarithm is called the GoGo factor, and it takes into account, say, percentage past goal, number of backers, traffic to your page, etc., to arrive at a score that ultimately determines your organic visibility on the platform. So by setting it low, you're doing two things. Again, you're gamifying that the logarithm, but two, you're also gamifying it in a different way by your I shouldn't use manipulating, but backers will see that, oh, you're X past goal. Oh man, well, I want to get in too. So it adds credibility to your campaign page, and it also motivates backers to back as well, because it's just inherent in human nature that individuals want to back a winner. So whenever they see, so by setting it low and you quickly go past it, they say the time I want to get in on this party too, essentially.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that? When you set like the goal low and you already surpassed that goal, do you then kind of like raise the bar afterwards just so there's a new goal, or you set it low like in general consistently?
Sure. So that's a great question. And you generally want to set it low and then leave it. Because if once your campaign launches, you're not going to be able to change it. And even if you were able to change it and then you just kept setting it, it doesn't necessarily, I guess, showcase the most calm stewardship of a campaign. So you want to keep it low, but the best way to raise it without raising it is by having stretch goals. So, you could say if you're trying to get to, 50K, for instance, and you're at 25, you can go to your community and say, if we make it to 50K, we'll release this product in a red case or a blue case or whatever you have. So stretch goals are important in that scenario that you described.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, I had a follow up on that.
Okay.
If you pass your goal, right, you're surpassing it, people are investing, whatever the case is. I mean, why wouldn't you continue doing it to get, continue to get funding? But is there a point where you can't raise any more money, or you should stop, or like on the platform and such?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to stop, if you're raising money, I don't know why you would stop, but because definitely the goal is to raise, I mean, it depends. Some campaigns, if you're just looking for product validation, and then fine, you can go ahead and stop. But I mean, most campaigns on here are looking to have a big launch and have a big PR splash and things of that nature. So you definitely want to keep going as long as you possibly can, because if you are having a good launch, your community is going to, and this is why the pre-launch is important, your community is going to deliver 30% or more of your internal funding goal within the first 48 hours of your campaign. Then that is going to exhaust your community. So now you're going to need two things to step in order to really push you out there and amplify that success. And the first is going to be the guaranteed promotional support that Indiegogo will provide you. And so in newsletters, social media posts, things of that nature. And then the second is you're also going to want to invest heavily in ads. So generally, whatever you spend, if you're working with a friend or an agency that knows really what they're doing, the industry average is about a 2x return on ads. which is amazing. But ultimately, you should know that, you know, momentum over time is going to slow down. And the best thing you can do is to keep it to about a 60-day campaign this way, and then finish on a really high note. So it's just like any kind of Vegas showmanship, as much as you possibly can, one kind of big push, and then walk off the stage right at the crescendo.
Question.
Yeah.
Oh, would you recommend launching a campaign pre-prototyping stage?
Not necessarily. It depends on what your goals are. So, and the reason why I say pre-prototype it's not best is because we can't promote it on Indiegogo. But what would you be looking to launch your campaign for? Like, what would be the goal? To get to prototype?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you could try launching it. I don't, just to be honest, I don't think that it would find much success on there because campaigners really want, or excuse me, backers in your community are going to want something that they know is close to being as complete as possible, so that they know that they're going to ultimately receive it.
Got it.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in regards to the samples, the free samples, I have heard a couple stories where companies will send out free samples to influencers, and what will end up happening is the influencers will completely ghost the companies and just take the free stuff. Say I were to send, you know, oh, what was that?
I'm sorry, you cut out there very briefly. Sorry.
Okay. Well, say you were going to, you know, submit a set of products to a company.
Yeah.
How would you be able to secure that they would offer even, you know, any sort of response, even a rejection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know that they're going to respond?
Yeah, because you're sort of putting this into their hands, you know, the fate of this product into their hands.
Yeah.
You know.
Ultimately you don't, and it's tough, especially at least at a very early stage, and it's really tough, and it can seem, you know, it can really bring down your spirits, but you should ultimately stay positive because the work that you're putting in now, you don't know where it's going to go. You know, a friend of mine just talking about not knowing where it's going if you don't have the relationships within the industry. So a friend of mine had a record label here in San Francisco, and he and myself were both writing press releases and things of that nature, and just kind of sending them out en masse, whoever would get it, and didn't hear back from anybody, even small time guys. And we were like, what's going on? Like, even these small guys aren't hitting us up. And then ultimately we had one of, well, he had one of his bands being featured on Pitchfork. So you ultimately never know where it's going to go.
I think Lawrence, you have a question too.
Oh, he just answered it.
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay. Stacy, by the way, I hope that you could share your slide deck with us.
Yeah, more than happy. I'll email that over to you whenever we finish.
Okay, thank you.
I also have a question for Stacy. Well, first of all, thank you for giving us such a wonderful presentation, and we appreciate you being here. I wanted to ask someone with your experience and someone who's in the field of activity that you're doing, maybe you have some general advice for us and some insight of what we should be prepared for and what qualities we should be putting forward. And we are talking about that during our classes, but maybe there's some kind of advice or I don't know, words of wisdom that you could share with us to also inspire us to work on our own sort of personal growth.
Yeah. Oh man. That's a loaded question, and a good place to start. You know, the best way to do it, and I just mentioned this on my previous answer, is to stay positive. Even myself, you know, you're going to reach out to a lot of people, and actors and actresses think that they handle rejection a lot. I don't think so. So it's entrepreneurs that really handle the most rejection, because, you know, you're going to go knock on so many doors, and then ultimately one person is going to give you that opportunity, and then that opportunity is all you're going to need. So you can really build yourself. So my best advice is to just stay as positive as you possibly can, because ultimately your opportunity will come. And then whenever you do find that opportunity and you have a best product that really that is going to resonate, be willing to invest with in yourself and in that product as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and that's the reason why on the first week of our class, remember, our first thing we talked about was how to handle failure. Because really rejection is going to be really part of our entrepreneurial lifestyle. Yeah. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a good question. Thank you. I think Saba?
Yeah, I posted a question on the chat box. I'm not able to talk that much here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So her question is, what are the characteristics of most successful campaigns? Or in other words, are there similar traits? What is common between successful campaigns in Indiegogo?
Okay, so yeah, I would say the most common trait on successful campaigns is that they've identified a problem in whatever market that they're looking to launch into. And not only have they identified that problem, their product is resonating as resolution for that problem. So that would be key factor number one. Key factor number two would be the fact that they are really adept and doing a great job at driving traffic to their campaign page, whether it's organic or whether they're paying for it, or whether you know, a friend of theirs owns or is really good at Facebook ads, etc. You're going to want to make for sure you have as much out there as you possibly can. So I would say that those are really the two factors that really distinguish good campaigns from great campaigns.
Thank you so much, Stacy.
Louis?
Hi, Stacy. I kind of have a similar question, but more on the, so you've seen so many campaigns. So can you give an example of a campaign that really did not work, and what was the reason why that campaign did not work?
Oh man, yeah. I can think of one right immediately. I'm not going to go into the campaign's name or anything of that nature, but so I saw this great campaign and I reached out to him, and it is an e-mobility product. So it's a scooter, and scooters, e-bikes, things of that nature on Indiegogo, they really pop on Indiegogo. So we have a great community for it. So I reached out to him and was like, oh man, great. Get him on the phone, talking to him. He's a great dude. You know, he's telling me all the right things. And everything's going, launch happens. He tells me, so the way crowdfunding works is, you know, I've actually alluded to this. You want to collect as many email addresses as possible, and then ultimately hope, well, knowing that about 5% of them will convert on launch day. And this individual had, I want to say, about a 20,000 email list strong community behind him for his launch. And I was expecting this to be kind of a blockbuster campaign. And then the individual, and mind you, he poured in $50,000 of his own money that he borrowed from a bank. And then he launched on launch day and had 0 conversions. So, and the reason for that was because he built an email list and didn't tell me on giveaway. So never, ever should you build an email address based on a giveaway, because this individual, or like, basically you're priming people to expect something for free. So they're going to come there based like for it. I've had one instance of it being a Tesla. So they'll come trying to win the Tesla, but ultimately you're not giving them much motivation to buy.
And then follow-up question maybe. So you're already mentioning that, you want to collect as many email addresses as possible. What would you recommend to use to have these email addresses? Like, I'm assuming like not like in a Google sheet or, Excel sheet, right? You want to use a platform. Is there a platform that you can recommend?
Yeah. So, I mean, every day, MailChimp, they do a great job.
Thank
Also,
you.
a lot of people are using Wix these days too.
How do you spell that?
W-I-X.
Wix, okay.
Yep. Which I think is what you guys, did I see that, Professor, on you guys' virtual trade show? Which looks super cool, by the way.
Yeah, that's Wix, yeah.
Yeah.
Tracy, if you don't mind, can you walk us through for most of the students on how the mechanics would work in terms of, let's say, if they don't meet the goal, would they still get to continue with that? Let's say the deadline is like only for a month and they didn't reach the goal. Can they still continue with the campaign?
Yeah. So if you don't reach your goal, then ultimately all of your backers will be refunded. But that's if you use a fixed. So on Indiegogo, there are two types of campaigns. There's a fixed campaign, and then there's a flexible campaign. And flexible campaigns will allow you to keep your money and ultimately keep your money regardless if you hit your funding goal or not. But in order to really keep on and have a great campaign, you really need to be hitting your goal. And that's why I said set it as low as possible. This way, that's another good reason why you'd want to do that.
And in terms of equity, in your experience, would many or some of these early investors ask for equity share?
Yeah, so it used to be that Indiegogo had an equity offering, so equity crowdfunding, but we don't do that anymore. I know that crowdfunding platform or your crowdfunding campaign can be a great stepping stone to larger for that offering, but Indiegogo currently does not do that.
I have a quick question. Have you ever had a campaign where the end user purchases something for someone else?
So,
like if you're fixing a problem in society, my product is only available under the supervision of a physician. It's a medical formula. And I was wondering, could people purchase for to fund? Right now we're in the manufacturing stage and we're testing on, we went from 1 child to testing on 10 children. And I was wondering if we could like fund our 100 child through Indiegogo.
Yeah, you most certainly could fund that on Indiegogo. I think in this situation, it might be better to use GoFundMe just because they have more organic traffic and audience that's looking to back campaigns like yours. But if you were to launch on Indiegogo, this is very much something that we personally love to back, and we can have a separate conversation offline. If you did launch it on Indiegogo, be more than happy to get you promotional placements, stuff like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, thanks for your time today. My name's Donnie, by the way.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Stacy, do you have any work, any activity that you will need the breakout room?
No activity for the breakout room. Okay. So we're good.
Okay. All right. Any other question from the group? I guess we're good for now.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you again so very much, Stacy. And I know that many of our students would follow through with you through email, maybe through LinkedIn too. And we're looking forward to continuous collaboration with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all, guys. I've really enjoyed this. And seriously, reach out if you want. And Professor, I will be emailing you my slides here in a moment.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Take
you're welcome.
care. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you.